The gavel slammed down like a thunderclap in the marbled halls of City Hall, but it was the old woman's scream that shattered the air. "You heartless bastard! This city's soul dies with that swing." Her frail body crumpling against the wooden barricade as security swarmed like vultures. Outside, rain lashed the streets of San Francisco's Mission District, turning the vibrant murals into bleeding watercolors, while inside, Evan Hargrove's father, the billionaire tycoon Richard Hargrove, leaned back in his leather chair, his smile as cold as the Pacific fog rolling in. Evan's heart jackhammered in his chest, not from the chaos, but from the secret glance he stole across the room, toward Dylan Reyes, the tattooed journalist whose eyes burned with the same fire that had just ignited something unbreakable inside him. Evan Hargrove had always known his life was a house of cards built on his father's empire. But that afternoon in the hearing room, it felt like the wind had finally arrived. The Mission District, San Francisco's beating heart of murals, precarious and immigrant dreams, was on the chopping block. Richard's latest megaproject, Hargrove Heights, promised luxury condos that would revitalize the neighborhood, but everyone knew it meant evictions, bulldozers, and the erasure of history. The young girl at the center of the uproar was Sofia Alvarez, barely 22, with braids like coiled serpents and a voice that could rally ghosts. She wasn't just testifying. She was declaring war. "I've lived here my whole life," Sofia said into the microphone, her words slicing through the murmurs like a switchblade. "My abuela raised me in that walk-up on 24th Street, where the walls still echo with the songs of the disappeared. You call it blight, Mr. Hargrove. I call it home. And if you think a check and a relocation package will silence us, you've forgotten what this city was built on: rebellion." The room erupted. Cameras flashed. Richard's jaw tightened, his perfectly manicured fingers drumming the armrest. Evan, seated 2 rows behind in the shadows of his father's entourage, felt the words burrow into him like shrapnel. Sofia's eyes swept the crowd, locking briefly on his, and in that split second, he saw not accusation, but an invitation to awaken. Evan shifted in his seat, the wool of his tailored suit itching against his skin. At 28, he was the invisible heir, the one who handled the creative side of Hargrove Developments, renderings, PR spin, the pretty lies that made demolition sound like destiny. But today, the pretty lies were cracking. He'd met Dylan Reyes 6 months earlier, at a dimly lit gallery opening in the Castro, where Dylan's photographs of queer youth reclaiming abandoned lots hung like defiant banners. Dylan, with his ink-sleeved arms and easy laugh that hid a survivor's edge, had cornered Evan by the punch bowl. "You're the golden boy, huh? Tell me, does Daddy know you sneak into these shows to feel something real?" Evan's cheeks had burned, but he'd stayed, mesmerized by Dylan's world, raw, unapologetic, alive. Now, as the hearing adjourned in a storm of protests, Evan slipped out a side door, the rain soaking his shirt in seconds. He needed air, needed to outrun the nausea twisting his gut. The alley behind City Hall smelled of wet asphalt and distant garlic from a food truck. That's when he heard the footsteps. Quick, determined, and Sofia rounded the corner, her protest sign dripping like a war trophy. "You," she said, pointing a finger slick with rain. "Hargrove Jr. I saw you in there. You looked like you were about to bolt." Evan froze, water streaming down his face. I don't know what you think you saw. I saw a man who's tired of being his father's shadow." She stepped closer, undeterred by the downpour. "My name's Sofia, and if you're half the person your eyes say you are, you'll help me stop this. Not for me, for all of us." He wanted to laugh it off, to recite the boardroom script about progress and prosperity. But Dylan's voice echoed in his head. "Feel something real." "Why me?" Evan asked, his voice barely above the rain's roar. "Because you're inside the castle, and castles fall from within." Sofia's smile was fierce, a spark in the gray. She thrust a flyer into his hand. "Save the mission. Rally tomorrow," before vanishing back into the storm. That night, in his glass-walled penthouse overlooking the bay, Evan paced like a caged wolf. The city lights twinkled mockingly, a reminder of the wealth that chained him. Richard had built Hargrove from nothing, A kid from the Dust Bowl Midwest who'd clawed his way to billions on the backs of dreamers like Sophia's family. Family first, he'd always preached, but to Evan, it meant obedience, not love. Coming out? That was a footnote in a binder labeled liabilities. Evan had buried his truth deeper than the foundations of his father's skyscrapers. His phone buzzed. Dylan. Heard about the hearing. You okay? Bar in the Castro, your call. Evan's thumb hovered. He typed, "Need you." Sent. 20 minutes later, he was sliding into a booth at the saloon. The air thick with leather and laughter. Dylan was there, nursing a whiskey, his dark curls damp from the rain, eyes scanning the room like he owned every shadow. Rough day in the Empire? Dylan teased, but his hand found Evan's under the table, a quiet anchor. Evan spilled it all, the hearing, Sophia, the gnawing dread that he was complicit in something unforgivable. Dylan's grip tightened. You're not your dad, Evan, but if you keep pretending you are, you'll wake up one day and believe it. He leaned in, breath warm against Evan's ear. I've seen you at those rallies, incognito. The way you listen like you're starving for it. Don't hide anymore. Their kiss was tentative at first, born of shared desperation, then deepening like the city's hidden currents. It wasn't fireworks. It was a hearth fire, steady and warm against the cold. For the first time, Evan felt seen not as the air but as himself. Flawed, frightened, but whole. The next morning, sunlight pierced the fog like judgment. Evan stared at Sophia's flyer on his nightstand. The ink smudged but the words bold. Our stories aren't for sale. He dressed in jeans and a hoodie, civilian armor, and headed to the rally in Dolores Park. The crowd was a tapestry of the mission. Shikanks families with handmade signs, queer activists in rainbow keffiyehs, elders clutching rosaries and rage. Sophia was at the makeshift stage, her voice booming through a megaphone. They want to paint over our murals, displace our dreams. But we are the mission. We rise. Evan hovered at the edge, heart pounding. Then he saw Dylan across the grass, camera in hand, capturing the fire. Their eyes met and Dylan nodded, go. Evan pushed forward, the crowd parting like it sensed his fracture. When Sophia paused for breath, he raised his hand. I'm Evan Hargrove, he said into the sudden hush, his voice cracking but carrying. And I won't let this happen. Gasps rippled. Phones whipped out. Sophia's eyes widened, then softened. Then stand with us, Evan. Prove it. He did. For the next hour he spoke. Not scripted, not polished, but raw. About the empty towers his father built, the families they'd scattered like confetti. About a city losing its pulse. When he finished, the cheers were thunderous, but it was Dylan's proud smile that anchored him. Word spread like wildfire. By evening, the Chronicle had a headline. Hargrove air defects? Richard's call came at dawn. A venomous hiss through the line. What the hell was that stunt? You think you're Robin Hood now? Get to the office. We fixed this. Evan met him in the boardroom, the table a battlefield of blueprints. Richard's face was granite. Son, this isn't a game. The mission's a liability, crime, decay. We're saving it. You're destroying it. Evan shot back, the words tasting like freedom. People like Sophia, they're the soul you can't buy. Richard's laugh was bitter. Sophia Alvarez? That little firebrand? She's a pawn, Evan. And you're a fool if you think exposing our family helps anyone. He slid a folder across the table. Photos of Evan and Dylan, grainy shots from the bar, the gallery. I know about your distractions. Keep this up and it goes public. Not just you. The whole operation crumbles. Betrayal hit like a gut punch. His own father weaponizing his heart. Evan's hands trembled. You'd out me? For condos. For legacy. Richard's eyes were steel. Choose, family or fantasy. Evan walked out, the elevator descent mirroring his freefall. He drove straight to Dylan's tiny studio in the Mission. The walls alive with prints of protests and lovers entwined in sunlight. Dylan pulled him inside, no questions, just arms that held the world at bay. He knows, Evan whispered, collapsing onto the worn couch. He'll ruin us. Dylan's fingers traced his jaw. Then we fight smarter. Sophia's got a network, legal aid, city council allies. We leak the real dirt. Environmental violations, bribes to inspectors. Turn the empire against itself. For weeks, they became a clandestine trio. Sophia mapped the strategy, petitions, viral videos. A whistleblower exposed Evan fed to Dylan's contacts. Nights blurred into stolen moments. Dylan sketching Evan's profile by candlelight. Their whispers weaving plans and promises. "I love you," Dylan said one midnight, as rain tapped the window like applause. "Not the air, the man who chooses heart over gold." Evan's response was a kiss that tasted of salt and hope. Love, in the quiet spaces between battles, felt like revolution. But Richard struck back. Anonymous tips flooded the press. Evan is unstable, a spoiled brat sabotaging his birthright. Protesters were smeared as radicals. Then the betrayal deepened. Sophia's abuela, Dona Rosa, was evicted overnight, her building condemned on falsified reports. Sophia showed up at Evan's door, eyes red-rimmed. "This is war now. Your father's not playing." Evan's resolve hardened. He hacked into the company servers, Dylan's tech-savvy roommate providing the code, and unearthed the smoking gun. Emails proving Richard bribed officials, ignored seismic risks that could doom the new towers in a quake. "Publish it," Evan told Dylan. "All of it." The story broke on a foggy Tuesday, Dylan's byline blazing across every outlet. Hargrove Empire built on lies. The city ignited. Rallies swelled to thousands. Richard's stock plummeted. Lawsuits piled like driftwood. In the eye of the storm, Evan faced his father at the family estate in Pacific Heights, the bay glittering like shattered glass below. "You've destroyed everything," Richard growled, scotch in hand, face etched with unfamiliar defeat. "No, Dad. You did, by thinking people were disposable." Evan's voice steadied. "I'm gay. I love Dylan. And I'm done hiding for your approval." Richard recoiled, then sagged. For the first time, Evan saw the man behind the mogul, tired, terrified of loss. I didn't know how to love you right. After your mother." He trailed off, the unsaid hanging heavy. The climax came at the emergency council meeting, the chamber packed to bursting. Sophia testified first, her voice a clarion. "This isn't about one building. It's about who we let define us." Then Evan, documents in hand, laid bare the corruption. The council voted unanimously. Project halted, protections for the mission enshrined. As cheers erupted, Evan found Dylan in the crowd, their embrace a quiet victory amid the chaos. Sophia joined them, hugging Evan fierce. "You saved us, mi hermano." But Richard's shadow lingered. A week later, a stroke felled him in his office, the empire's weight finally crushing its king. Evan stood at the funeral, rain veiling his tears, Dylan's hand in his a lifeline. Whispers swirled. Disinheritance, boardroom coups. But Evan walked away, selling his shares to a community trust. The mission bloomed anew. Co-ops in the old buildings, murals brighter than before. In the end, it wasn't triumph or tragedy, but grace. Evan and Dylan moved into a fixer-upper on Valencia Street, walls echoing with laughter and late-night edits. Sophia started a youth center, her abuela's stories its cornerstone. And on clear nights, from their rooftop, the city whispered back, "You chose us. We choose you." The aftermath felt like waking from a fever dream, the kind where the monsters turn out to be mirrors. Evan stared at the ceiling of their new apartment, the plaster cracked like veins, while Dylan's soft snores provided a rhythmic counterpoint to the distant hum of BART trains. It was 3 months post-funeral, and San Francisco had exhaled. Protests faded to policy wins, headlines to history. But inside Evan, the echoes lingered, a hollow ache where family once fit, however fractured. Dylan stirred, rolling toward him with that sleepy grace that still unraveled Evan. "Penny for your thoughts, or is it still the empire haunting you?" His fingers traced lazy circles on Evan's chest, grounding him in the now. "Just, what if I'd stayed silent?" Evan murmured, voice thick with the what-ifs that plagued his quiet hours. Sophia's center wouldn't exist, but Dad. Maybe he'd still be here. Dylan's eyes sharpened. No pity, just truth. He built his cage, Evan. You opened the door. That's love, not regret. He propped up on an elbow, curls falling wild. Besides, you've got a city to thank you. And me, though I charge interest on those thoughts. Evan chuckled, pulling him close. Their mornings were like this now. Tender negotiations between past and present, bodies speaking what words fumbled. No grand gestures, just the romance of shared coffee and sunlight slanting through thrift store curtains. Dylan had quit his freelance grind for a staff gig at the Bay Guardian. His exposés now celebrated rather than contraband. Evan, he consulted for nonprofits, turning developer know-how into tools for preservation. Paid in purpose, not penthouses. Sophia texted as they dressed. Grand opening tonight. Don't flake, golden boy. Abuela's making tamales. The youth center, La Esperanza Hub, occupied the ground floor of a rehab tenement, once slated for Hargrove's Wrecking Ball. Murals by local queer artists splashed the facade. Intertwined fists in rainbow and earth tones, symbols of solidarity. The evening buzzed with life. Kids spray-painted legal tags on a community wall, elders swapped stories over horchata, and a drag queen MC cracked jokes that had even the stoics snorting. Sophia, in a huipil embroidered with protest icons, spotted them immediately. Mira quien lego, the saviors grace us. She air-kissed Dylan, then punched Evan's arm lightly. You clean up nice without the suit. Dona Rosa enveloped Evan in a hug that smelled of cinnamon and resilience. Mijo, you gave me back my street. Now eat, thin as a ghost. Her tamales were vessels of memory, each bite a thread to the lives Richard had nearly severed. As night deepened, the crowd thinned to stragglers. Dylan captured it all. Candids of Sophia laughing with teens, Evan sketching plans with volunteers. Later, on the center's rooftop, under a canopy of string lights, Sophia raised a plastic cup of sangria. To betrayals that birth better worlds. Evan clinked, but his toast caught. To the girl who fought and won. She waved it off. Nah, we all fought. Your dad. He was a storm, but storms pass. Her eyes misted, not with sorrow, but the weight of what she'd carried. Sophia had lost more than a building. Her activism had cost her a scholarship, friends scattered by fear. Yet here she was, architect of renewal. Dylan's arm slipped around Evan's waist. A silent we're in this. The city sprawled below, the mission's neon veins pulsing. Ticarius glowing, Bart rumbling like a heartbeat. It was American poetry. Gritty, diverse, unyielding. In the distance, the Bay Bridge to Oakland, where Dylan's family waited. A sprawling Reyes clan of mechanics and poets who'd welcomed Evan with suspicious warmth, then fierce loyalty. Back home, the high faded into introspection. Evan pored over Richard's will in the lamplight, the document a relic of control. The bulk went to trusts, but a codicil named Evan sole heir to the Pacific Heights mansion with a clause. Sell within a year or forfeit to charity. It's tainted, he told Dylan over takeout pho. Every room reeks of him. Sell it. Fund something real, like expanding Sophia's hub. Dylan's practicality was his love language, laced with that romantic undercurrent that made Evan's pulse quicken. They made love then, slow and deliberate, bodies mapping forgiveness in the dark. But peace was a fragile bloom. Whispers reached Evan through old contacts. Board members circling, eyeing a hostile takeover of the community trust he'd established. Richard's lieutenants, men in crisp shirts who'd once toasted his future, now plotted its undoing. They're saying you killed him. A former aide confided over coffee, voice low. Stress from the scandal. Guilt's a hell of a motivator. Evan's stomach nodded. Guilt? It was a constant companion, whispering on commutes, in quiet dinners. Had his rebellion hastened the end? Dylan sensed it, dragging him to Golden Gate Park for impromptu picnics, where frisbees and fog chased the shadows. You're not Atlas, babe. The world doesn't rest on your atonement. Sophia pulled him into her orbit too, weekly strategy sessions at the hub, where plans for a mission-wide arts co-op took shape. "Channel it," she'd say, handing him a marker to brainstorm on whiteboards scarred with youth graffiti. One evening, as they taped sketches to walls, she shared her own fracture. "My papa left when I was 5, chasing the American dream across borders, only to get deported. I fight, 'cause silence is surrender." Evan nodded, seeing parallels in their scars. Dad never left, but he was gone just the same. Their bond deepened, a siblinghood forged in fire. Dylan teased them mercilessly. "You two plotting world domination? Save some for the rest of us queers." But his photos captured their alchemy. Evan's tentative smiles, Sophia's unshakable fire. Conflict brewed anew when the board struck. A leaked memo, Evan's trust mismanaged, funds vanishing into Sophia's projects. Hit the wires. Reporters swarmed their doorstep, mics thrust like accusations. "Mr. Hargrove, did grief drive you to sabotage your father's legacy?" one bade. Evan barricaded the door, heart hammering. Dylan fielded calls, his journalist's calm a shield. "It's slander," he assured, but doubt crept in. That night, poring over ledgers, they found the trail. Forged signatures, diverted checks. Richard's old guard, protecting their fiefdom. "We countersue," Sophia declared at dawn, eyes blazing over churros. "Expose them like you did your dad." Evan hesitated. More war? But Dylan's hand on his steadied him. "This is your strength now, not hiding, but holding ground." The lawsuit launched like a flare. Depositions dragged, suits in conference rooms reeking of stale ambition. Evan testified, voice steady. "My father built an empire on shortcuts. I'm building something honest." The judge, a no-nonsense Latina with mission roots, leaned in. "Son, honesty costs. You willing to pay?" "Every cent," Evan replied, as trials ground on romance sustained them. Dylan surprised Evan with a weekend in Big Sur. Crashing waves, cliffside hikes, a tent under stars where they dreamed aloud. "Marry me?" Dylan asked one twilight, ringless but earnest, sea salt on his lips. Evan's yes was a vow to the horizon. Sophia's hub thrived amid the fray, workshops on queer history, coding classes for immigrant kids. One night, a teen confided in Evan, "I'm scared to tell my folks." He shared his closet's ghosts, Dylan's light. "It gets brighter. Promise." The climax crested in court. Whistleblower testimony from a defector exec, receipts proving the fraud. The board crumbled. Settlements funneled back to the trust. Evan emerged scarred but sovereign, the mansion sold at auction. Proceeds seeding a scholarship in Richard's name, twisted toward equity. In the quiet after, Evan traced Dylan's tattoos by firelight, their apartment now home. Sophia visited with donor Rose's albondigas, toasting, "To the billionaire's son who became our brother." San Francisco breathed easier, its soul intact. Evan had fought, not with gavels or gold, but heart. And in Dylan's arms, he found the strength to believe. Redemption wasn't erasure, but rewrite. Autumn swept into the Bay Area like a reluctant guest, painting the Presidio's eucalyptus gold while the mission held onto summer's stubborn heat. Evan and Dylan's life had settled into a rhythm, mornings of strong coffee and stronger kisses. Evenings where Dylan's shutter clicks mingled with Evan's grant proposals. The trust was thriving, Sophia's co-op breaking ground on a mural garden that promised to weave queer and lading stories into the neighborhood's fabric. Yet, beneath the surface calm, Evan carried a quiet unrest, like the fog that never quite lifted. It started with a letter, innocuous in its cream envelope, delivered to the hub during a volunteer shift. Evan slid it open amid stacks of paint samples, expecting donor thanks. Instead, "The past isn't buried. Evan, meet me or the truth surfaces." R.H. His blood chilled. Richard's handwriting? Impossible. But the flourish on the H was unmistakable. He showed Dylan that night, the paper trembling in his grip. "It's a forgery. Has to be." Dylan's brow furrowed, photographer's eye dissecting details. "Or a ghost. Remember those bored vultures?" one of them playing puppet master. Sophia's take was firebrand blunt when they convened at a corner pupuseria. Burn it, or bait the trap. Her braids were tied back with a bandana splashed in serape colors, her energy undimmed by the legal war's toll. You've faced worse. But Evan couldn't shake it. Sleepless, he wandered their apartment, memories surfacing like flotsam. Richard's rare approvals. A nod at a flawless pitch, a scotch shared after a deal closed. You're my legacy, he'd said once, eyes distant. Had there been love there, buried under boardroom armor? The letter mocked that ambiguity, promising revelations that could shatter the fragile peace. Dylan noticed the erosion, countering with gestures small and seismic. A playlist of Motown soul for their drives, hands intertwined over the gearshift as they cruised the Embarcadero. You're not alone in this maze, he'd murmur, pulling over for impromptu makeouts against the sea wall, the city's pulse syncing with theirs. The meeting was set for a nondescript diner in the outer sunset, fog-shrouded and far from prying eyes. Evan arrived early, nerves jangling, ordering black coffee that tasted of regret. The man who slid into the booth was a specter from his past. Uncle Theo, Richard's estranged brother, face weathered like driftwood, eyes sharp as gulls. You look like him, Theo said without preamble, voice gravel from years of shipyard smokes. But softer, better. Evan's guard spiked. The letter, what truth? Dad's dead. Let it rest. Theo leaned in, breath minty over the fry oil haze. Not everything died with him. Your mother, Elena. She didn't leave like he told you. Accident, off the coast. Boat capsized. Richard covered it, insurance fraud, to keep the cash flow. Said it was mercy, sparing you the headlines. The world tilted. Elena Hargrove. A watercolor blur of laughter and lavender perfume. Gone when Evan was 8. Richard's story, abandonment, a flight to Europe, had festered like a thorn. Why now? Evan whispered, fists clenched under the table. Because I'm dying, kid. Liver's shot. And that empire? 's poisoned fruit. I worked the docks while Richard played king. Watched him bury her memory to build higher. Theo slid a USB drive across the Formica. Proof. Logs. Falsified reports. Use it or don't. But free yourself. Evan pocketed it, fleeing into the fog. The drive home was a blur. Dylan's texts lighting his phone like beacons. Where are you? Hub's asking. He burst into their apartment, collapsing into Dylan's lap on the couch. Mom. She didn't leave. He lied. About everything. Dylan held him through the sobs, a dam breaking after decades. Then we honor her. Leak it clean, anonymous, through Sophia's network. Let the city judge. But betrayal's echo rippled wider. The USB held more than Elena's ghost. Emails tying Richard to early 90s union bustings. Evictions that displaced AIDS-era communities in the Castro. Queer history, erased for profit. Dylan, poring over files by laptop glow, went still. This, it hits home. My T.O. died in 93, Castro landlord hikes. If this is true. Evan's guilt twisted anew. I profited from it. All those years. No. Dylan's voice was steel wrapped in silk. You dismantle it now. Sophia rallied them at the hub, the air thick with fresh paint and purpose. This is dynamite, she said, scanning docs. But timed right, ties into the co-op launch. Frame it as reckoning, not revenge. The expose dropped mid-November, time to All Souls Day vibes. Hargrove secrets. From tragedy to tycoon. Dylan's byline again. Photos of Elena's smiling portrait intercut with redacted files. The city mourned and raged. Vigils for Elena in Pacific Heights. Protests at old sites demanding reparations. Evan spoke at a Castro memorial, voice raw. My father built wonders, but at costs we can't ignore. For the lost. For Mom. Let's rebuild right. Richard's ghost loomed larger, but so did his humanity. A forgotten journal surfaced in the mansion's attic during final clear-out. Entries of a man grieving, fearing he'd fail his son as he had his wife. Evan's light. One read, Don't let my dark eclipse it. Tears blurred the ink as Evan read aloud to Dylan, their bed a sanctuary. Romance deepened in the deluge. Dylan proposed properly on a hike in Muir Woods. Kneeling amid redwoods, a silver band etched with mission motifs. You're my north, Evan. Marry me. Build this life. Yes, Evan breathed, the forest whispering amen. Sophia officiated the small wedding in Dolores Park, spring cherry blossoms confetti. Dona Rosa wept joyful, tamales steaming. Vows exchanged. In shadows and storms, I choose you. But conflict shadowed joy. Theo's death came swift, a quiet passing in a hospice by the bay. His estate, pittance, but a letter to Evan. Forgive him. He was broken first. It cracked something open, allowing Evan to visit Richard's grave. Not with anger, but questions unanswered. The co-op opening was a triumph. Galleries humming, queer poets slamming truths. A teen from the hub, inspired by Evan's story, came out on stage. Applause like thunder. Sophia hugged Evan after. Your family now. Messy, but ours. As summer waned, Evan and Dylan planned a road trip. Route 1 south, chasing horizons Elena might have loved. In Carmel, by tide pools, Evan scattered a pinch of her ashes Theo had saved. Rest easy, Mom. We're free. Back in the city, the trust expanded, grants for Castro Memorial's mission housing co-ops. Betrayal's sting faded to scar, a reminder of resilience. Evan, once heir to empire, now steward of stories. In Dylan's lens, he saw it. A man, loved, loving American dream reimagined, one heartbeat at a time. The first year of marriage unfolded like a Polaroid developing in reverse. Blurry edges sharpening into vivid frames. Each day a snapshot of what they'd fought to claim. Evan and Dylan's apartment evolved too. Bookshelves groaning under queer-lit and urban planning tomes. A corner darkroom where Dylan's prints dried like captured breaths. San Francisco, ever the shapeshifter, mirrored their growth. Tech booms gentrifying edges. But the mission's core held firm. Sophia's initiatives a bulwark against the tide. Yet, peace was punctuation, not prose. Evan's dreams turned restless, haunted by gavel slams and rain-slick alleys. He'd wake gasping, Dylan's arms his tether. Talk it out, Dylan urged one dawn, as fog pressed against the window like a confidant. Botlings for wine, not you. Over huevos rancheros at a Valencia street spot, Evan confessed the undercurrent. Survivor's doubt. We won the war, but skirmishes linger. What if the next mogul erases what we saved? It was the humanist's curse. Victory bittersweet, empathy for the vanquished. Dylan nodded, fork pausing. Then we mentor the next Sophias. You're not done fighting. You're just picking battles. Sophia embodied that ethos. Her hub had ballooned into a network, satellite spots in the Tenderloin and Excelsior, teaching digital activism to at-risk youth. She roped Evan into guest spots, workshops on ethical development, where he'd sketch sustainable models on napkins turned blueprints. One session, a wiry kid named Mateo cornered him. My pops works construction for those high-rises. Says it's steady, but I see the evictions. How do I choose? Evan's answer was a mirror. You don't choose sides. You build bridges. Start small, like union talks. Change ripples. Mateo's grin sparked something paternal in Evan, a warmth he'd never known from Richard. Dylan captured it later, Evan mid-gesture, light haloing his earnest face. Our future album, he quipped, pinning it to the fridge amid takeout magnets. Romance wove through the mundane. Anniversary tacos from a truck where they'd first plotted leaks. Slow dances in the living room to Nina Simone. Bodies swaying to lyrics of Breaking Chains. Sex was sacrament. Tender explorations, laughter punctuating sighs, always affirming. You are enough. But the past clawed back in autumn's chill. A documentary crew contacted Evan, Empire's Fall. The Hargrove Reckoning, promising a balanced portrait. We want your voice. The director schmoozed over Zoom, all ivy polish. Humanized the man behind the myth. Evan warred with it. Richard humanized. The journal's confessions tugged. But so did the graves unmarked by his greed. Sophia vetoed hard. It's trauma porn. They'll edit you into the prodigal son trope. Dylan mediated, ever the artist. Do it on your terms. Co-produce. Turn the lens. They dove in, Evan narrating Elena's story with home videos Theo had digitized. Her laughing on sailboats, wind-tousled and free. Interviews with ex-employees painted Richard layered. Ruthless innovator, but donor to orphanages in secret. The betrayal arc? Evan's coming out, woven with Dylan's footage of their wedding. A tapestry of love-defying legacy. Filming climaxed at the mural garden. Sophia unveiling a piece dedicated to Elena. Waves crashing into blooming lotuses, symbol of grief transmuted. The crew rolled as Evan spoke. He taught me power's poison if not shared. This us is the antidote. The doc premiered at a Castro theater, packed with allies. Applause thundered, but a heckler from the old guard shouted, "Whitewashed sob story." Security escorted him out, but the barb stuck. Post-screening Q&A turned tense. Questions probing Evan's privilege, his easy redemption. Dylan squeezed his hand under the table. They're scared. You rewrote the script. Sophia, fierce in the lobby after, rallied. Haters gonna hate. We celebrate. Drinks at the hub. That night blurred into catharsis. Toasts to Elena, dances under garden lights, Mateo DJing queer anthems. Evan pulled Dylan aside, against a lotus wall. You make me brave. Their kiss was fierce, a reclaiming. Winter brought softer conflicts. Dylan's exhibit invite to NYC, a month away. Galleries want the Hargrove insider shots, he said. Excitement laced with hesitation. But leaving you mid-hubbub. Evan's chest tightened. Abandonment echoes from Elena's ghost. Go. I'll hold the fort. FaceTime foreplay's a thing. Dylan left in January snow, Evan burying into work. Trust audits, co-op expansions. Sophia noticed the strain during a grant pitch. He's not your mom, Evan. Trust the tether. She was right. Calls bridged miles. Dylan narrating MoMA whispers. Evan sharing hub hijinks. Letters arrived too. Dylan's scrawl poetic. Miss your chaos. City lights here are cold without your green eyes. The exhibit shadows of San Francisco wowed. Evan's portraits amid protest fire. Vulnerability bared. A review hailed. Reyes captures not just a city, but its queer soul's quiet revolutions. Evan flew east for closing night, surprising Dylan on stage with a bouquet of sunflowers. Elena's favorite. The after-party was electric. Art world buzz, stolen dances in a loft overlooking the Hudson. Homes wherever you are, Evan whispered, Hudson winds carrying the vow. Spring thawed tensions, but a new ripple. Sophia's pregnancy announcement, joyful amid hub chaos. Single mom by choice, freezing my own revolution. Evan and Dylan threw a baby shower in the garden, piñata stuffed with tiny protest signs. Donor Rosa knit booties, eyes twinkling. A new fighter. Paternity stirred Evan deeper. Kids? He broached Dylan one eve, skyline aglow. Dylan's smile was sunrise. Surrogacy? Adoption? With you, yeah. Our story needs sequels. Betrayal's final ghost surfaced in summer heat. A box from Theo's estate, delayed by probate. Inside, Richard's boyhood letters to Elena. Midwest dreams scribbled in pencil. I'll build us a castle, love. No more scraping. Evan read them aloud, tears salting the pages. He tried in his way. Forgiveness isn't forgetting, Dylan said, arm around him. It's space. The humanistic turn deepened at Sophia's baby blessing, a multicultural rite blending rosaries and sage. As she swelled with life, Evan vowed uncle duties. Dylan captured ultrasounds like sacred art. Climax brewed subtly. A citywide vote on preservation zoning, pitting developers against districts like the Mission. Evan testified, Dylan filming, Sophia mobilizing. Victory came narrow, Evan's data sealing it. Cheers in chambers echoed the hearing that started it all. In quiet afterglow, Evan and Dylan honeymooned locally. Napa vines, hot spring soaks. Under stars, they dreamed. Family, foundations, futures. San Francisco, scarred and shining, reflected their arc. Dramatic falls to romantic rises, betrayals to bonds. Evan, once lost son, now found father-to-be. Love, the ultimate humanism, mended what empires broke. By the second anniversary, their life had the patina of earned ease, frayed jeans and full hearts. The mission's symphony of salsa and sirens a lullaby. Sophia's son, Mateo Jr., MJ for short, arrived with a wail that rallied the block, his tiny fists punching air like future protests. Evan held him first after Sophia, the weight a revelation. Fragile power, demanding protection. "You're a natural," Dylan teased from the hospital doorway, camera slung but unused, some moments too sacred for lenses. Sophia, exhausted glow on her face, smirked. Uncle Evan's on diaper duty. Payback for all those late-night strategies. The hub adapted seamlessly. A nursery corner with mobiles of tiny fists and rainbows. Evan dove in, co-teaching parenting circles for queer and immigrant families, sharing Richard's absences as cautionary tales. Parenting's activism, he'd say. Show up, even when it's messy. Dylan thrived too, his book deal landing City of Hidden Lights. Queer San Francisco through the lens. Signings packed indie bookstores, Evan beaming from back rows, pride swelling like tides. But drama simmered in summer's haze. A new player emerged. Victoria Lang, Richard's former protege, a sharp-suited shark eyeing the trust's assets for a philanthropic merger. She cornered Evan at a fundraiser gala in Nob Hill, champagne flute in manicured grip. "Your father's vision deserves scale, Evan. Join me. Legacy 2.0. Her smile was serpent-sweet, but eyes betrayed ambition. Dad's vision? It displaced thousands. I'm building equity, not echoes. Victoria's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. Noble, but naivety bankrupts. Think it over. She slipped a card, embossed with promises. The temptation nod scale meant reach, more Sophia's saved. Evan confessed over midnight gelato in North Beach. What if she's right? Small sustainable, but big could change coasts. Dylan's spoon paused, eyes steady. Big swallowed your dad. Trust your gut. It's led us here. Sophia's counsel was blunt. MJ gurgling on her hip during a park meet. Snakes shed skins, not souls. She's Richard in heels, run. Conflict escalated when Victoria poached a trust board member. Leaks twisting Evan's grants as favoritism to the hub. Press hounded. Hargrove heirs cronyism? Dylan countered with op-eds. Sophia with viral threads exposing Victoria's track record. Evictions in Oakland, greenwashed sprawl. Evan confronted her in her Embarcadero office. Bay views mocking the divide. This merger? This takeover. Back off. Victoria leaned back, unperturbed. Or what? Sue, like last time? You're outgunned, darling. She revealed her blade. Dossiers on Dylan's family. Immigration snags from the 80s, weaponized for deportation threats. Love's a liability. Betrayal's chill returned, sharper for its familiarity. Evan stormed out, phoning Dylan mid-elevator plunge. She's targeting you, your folks. Dylan's voice cracked, then hardened. Then we expose her playbook. Together, the trio reconvened at the hub. MJ's coups the absurd counterpoint to war plans. Sophia's network mobilized. Lawyers pro bono, allies in City Hall. Dylan dug archives, unearthing Victoria's ties to Richard's old bribes, a direct line to the USB ghosts. Climax unfolded at a packed town hall, Victoria pitching her vision to a skeptical crowd. Evan took the mic uninvited, voice resonant. This isn't partnership, it's predation. Here's proof. Slides flashed, emails, ledgers. Gasps rippled. Victoria blanched, but rallied. Fabrications from a grieving son. Sophia surged forward, MJ in a carrier. Grieving? Try righteous. We've got the receipts. Your receipts. The hall erupted, council adjourning to emergency session. By dawn, Victoria's bid collapsed, her firm under investigation. Aftermath was tender reckoning. Evan apologized to Dylan over pierogi at his family's Oakland kitchen. Rhea's matriarchs enveloping him in flower-dusted hugs. Family protects family, Abuela Reyes decreed, pinching his cheek. Dylan forgave with a kiss tasting of borscht. We're unbreakable now. Fall deep in bonds. MJ's baptism, ecumenical with padrinos galore, saw Evan and Dylan as goduncles, vowing guidance. Dona Rosa gifted a quilt stitched with Elena's initials. Threads of legacy reclaimed. Romance bloomed in betwixt. Dylan's book tour, Evan tagging along for Midwest Whispers. Richard's Dust Bowl roots, fields where dreams took root. In a Kansas diner, pie cooling between them, Dylan proposed expanding family. Adopt? A little revolutionary of our own. Evan's heart soared. Yes, let's. Winter brought applications, home studies probing their patchwork life. A social worker noted, your story's compelling, trauma turned triumph. Spring interviews with kids waiting, wide eyes, guarded hopes, tugged souls. They met Luca, 8, with a stutter and artist soul, orphaned by overdose in the Tenderloin. His drawing of a family under a rainbow bridge sealed it. Paperwork dragged, but joys punctuated. Hub festivals. Dylan's book accolades. Sophia's promotion to community director. One eve, stargazing from Twin Peaks, Evan mused, Dad would have hated this messy mine. Dylan chuckled. Or envied it. You made the castle a home. Luca arrived in summer's heat, duffel clutched, eyes owl-wide at their apartment's chaos. Cool tattoos, he said to Dylan. Then to Evan, you look like the guy in the doc, the hero. Evan knelt. Nah, we're all heroes here. Parenting was poetry in prose. Bedtime stories blending Elena's C's with Rhea's recipes. Luca's stutter easing in laughter. Sophia babysat, MJ and Luca thick as thieves. Anti-army, she joked. A minor betrayal stung. Luca's old guardian contesting adoption. Dredging foster fails. Court loomed, but Evan's testimony, raw, paternal, swayed. He's not a case file. He's ours. Victory parade. Ice cream in the Castro, Luca's grin gap-toothed. As leaves turned, the family rooted deeper. Evan expanded the trust coastwide. Victoria's fall a cautionary chapter. Humanism prevailed. Not perfection, but persistence. In Dylan's arms, Luca snoring nearby, Evan whispered, this is the strength, the real save. Years folded like origami. Each crease a chapter etched in time's patient hand. Luca turned 12 amid a mission block party. Piñatas swinging, mariachi brass blaring defiance against encroaching cranes. He dashed between legs, camera from Dylan slung round his neck, capturing cousins and chaos. Dad, Evan, check this. His stutter gone, voice bold, he showed a shot of Sophia hoisting MJ, now a tornado of 4 onto shoulders. Evan ruffled his hair, pride a constant hum. Framed for the wall, next to your rainbow bridge. Dylan sidled up, arm looping Evan's waist, lips brushing temple. Our critics growing up. Book 2 material. Their second book, co-authored, Evan's words, Dylan's images, chronicled the trust's ripple. Districts reborn, from LA's Boyle Heights to Seattle's Capitol Hill. Luca illustrated end papers, his lines fierce and free. Sophia's empire matched. Hubs in 5 cities, her TED Talk from gavel to garden viral fire. MJ trailed her like a shadow, spouting facts on urban equity. Dona Rosa, silver-haired sentinel, ruled the nursery with stories of strikes and saints. Life's dramas mellowed to milestones, but conflict never fully retired. A national developer conglomerate, Echoes of Hargrove, targeted Bay Area outskirts, green mailing protections. Evan led the counter, testifying in Sacramento, Dylan live-streaming, Luca protesting with youth signs. Homes not high-rises. The betrayal twist? An insider tip from Victoria, reformed in exile, her firm folded. She'd pivoted to consulting for good. Old habits, she emailed. Paying debts. Her intel clinched injunctions. A redemptive arc Evan toasted privately. To fallen foes rising better. Climax crested in a statewide summit. Evan keynoting. Cities aren't canvases for kings. They're symphonies of survivors. Applause shook rafters. Policy shifted, protections locked. Post-victory, family decamped to Yosemite. Tents under sequoias, Luca scaling rocks, Dylan photographing bears at dusk. Around campfire, stories swirled. Elena's seas, Richard's fields, Sophia's streets. We're the bridge, Luca said, marshmallows gooey. Past to now. Romance endured, evolved. Evan and Dylan's silver anniversary, of sorts. Marked with vow renewals in the mural garden. Sophia officiating amid blooms. In betrayals and births, you chose love, she intoned. Rings exchanged, simple bands worn thin by time. Luca, teen tall, teared up. Gross, but goals. Later years layered grace. Luca off to UC Berkeley, majoring in urban studies, Evan's alma. Redeemed. Gonna fix what you started, Pops. He grinned at graduation, cap tassel swinging. Sophia's run for city council succeeded. Her platform people over profit. MJ, mini activist, campaigned with puppets. Dona Rosa passed peacefully at 98. Her funeral a festival. Quilts draped altars. Tamales fed multitudes. Evan and Dylan grayed gracefully. Dylan's curls silver-streaked. Evan's eyes crinkled with laugh lines. They mentored. Foster kids through the hub. Lectures on ethical empires. A final project. A national archive of queer urban histories. Elena's story cornerstone. Betrayal specter faded to footnote. Humanism the through line. Flawed figures forging fairness. One dusk. Atop Coit Tower. City sprawling golden. Dylan murmured. We saved it, her. Him, us. Evan leaned in, breath mingling. And it saved us back. The girl who'd fought the billionaire? Sophia, graying braids wise, visited with MJ's kids in tow. Full circle, she said, hugging tight. San Francisco, eternal rebel, pulsed on. Rainbows in fog, murals defying dusk. Evan Hargrove, once shadowed sun, ended as light. Lover, father, guardian. In America's vast tapestry, their thread, dramatic, emotional, romantic, wove enduring color. Strength wasn't solitary. It was shared. A city's heart beating in sync with hidden loves laid bare.